Everywhere you go around the world, there are awesome subcultures of people doing strange things, from like weird bondage things through to mad car things, food fetishes, feet things, flower growing, soybean crusading intergalactic warriors on time-traveling missions.
Renaissance jousting.
Renaissance jousting. It's a big thing, man. They use balsa wood joust so that they don't hurt each other.
So they explode.
So they explode and go everywhere.
We digress. We're talking about the car scene a little bit more specifically, and specifically within that car scene, we want to show you what you can do on your mad little car just to get into that scene.
What scene?
You're about to find out.
The mad little JDM truck scene. Absolutely huge in Japan. Here's the little truck. Run the graph. Today we're modifying this in a mad way. We're getting it legit. Run the graphics. See you in a couple of seconds.
This is my 2016 Daihatsu Hijet. It is a K-truck. It's also a tip truck. These are extremely popular in Japan. If you're a tradie or you got a farm or you just happen to like utes, it's very likely that you'd buy one of these. Now, it's a K-truck because the K laws mean it's got a yellow number plate and means that you pay less tax, less registration. It's to reduce congestion, reduce pollution. They're limited by engine size, power output, capacity, and dimensions. It's built exactly to the legal dimensions, so it cannot actually be much bigger than this. And this one is special because it's got a tip tray on the back that's powered by the gearbox that goes all the way up, and you can tip stuff out of it. Very useful on a farm.
And it's also special because it's been turbocharged. Now, these are super rare in Australia. They're kind of super rare everywhere, but in Japan, there is a massive scene of people that are into these trucks. Now, to give you a bit of an idea, these are some
This is research.
modified turbo K-truck magazines.
So
now,
cool.
just have a little look at the kinds of things that people are doing to these trucks. I mean, look at that. They're taking them to the track, they're taking them to the shops, they're doing their farm work.
This is my favorite thing. Check out the size of the truck meat. All with modified trucks. There would not be a single stock one there. Everyone has done something to their truck from mild to wild.
Now, look at these, Martin. They've got their little vans, they've got their camping set up, and then they've got their motorbikes.
And so those vans,
out and about.
So is that an electric bike? So the vans are also based, you see a lot of those little K vans getting around. They're also based on the same platform. So it's called a cab over, so the engine's right down underneath. Gives it a low center of gravity and means there's heaps of room inside the cab.
This person's done like a full little caravan thing.
So cool.
Look at this, oh no, they're not white walls, they're just crazy wheels. Look at, I mean, they're freaking cool.
But look how clean that is. That's just like straight off the factory floor, and then you add this mad body kit, put a few sick wheels on it, flare it up, and look how mad it looks. It's
amazing.
Just so cool. So my truck is a bit beat up already because I actually use it. Look at that. I use it to move landscape supplies. I use it to do tip runs, to put old parts in. Like, it's getting a little bit scratched up. We took it on a four-wheel drive off-road adventure.
And we need to keep doing that, Martin. We need to keep going on adventures with it. So we need to, whatever we do, it needs to be able to be transmogrified back into an off-road edition.
So if you watched our off-road adventure, you would see that it had a set of mud terrain tyres on it on 14-inch rims. Sort of sticks out, but it works. This already has a 2-inch lift. You can do a 4-inch lift on it, and any higher than that, it starts to get a bit crazy. But it's great for off-roading. So this is good for getting around town and whatever. And these wheels are the factory wheels that come on it. You actually need those wheels on before it was turbocharged to be able to accelerate up a hill.
Yes.
Because the weight of those big muddies just made it almost impossible to stick to the speed limit. That's partly why we turbocharged it. So the turbo and all that runs really nicely now. It still needs to be dyno, but it drives. But what we're going to do today is we're just going to try and just dip our toe into this world just a little bit. We've dipped our toe into some of this already.
We're
some of the mad
dip
off-roading.
the sushi into the soy sauce.
But, yes.
Aren't we?
With a little bit of wasabi.
Yeah, just a little taste.
So I got some mad parts that originated in Japan, all of them. I'm going to show you those right now. Here we have a set of SSR, otherwise known as Speed Stars. These are 13s. They might not look like 13s because they've got this tiny little centre, but they've been completely rebuilt, refurbished and re-lipped to be just that extra bit awesome. Now, they would have started out like a lot sort of weaker, so they say, with a smaller lip and an offset that's a bit more friendly for little front-wheel drive or whatever cars. These were actually also on a Suzuki Carry, but they've also been on all sorts of other vehicles over the years. I got them from Market Barrel Brothers, who just likes inspiring you with putting silly wheel choices on your truck. Now, these are not gonna fit. Well, they're gonna fit, but they're gonna poke like crazy. So how do you solve that? You solve that with some flares.
There's an old saying by a very wise philosopher that says, if your wheels don't fit your car, make your car fit your wheels. And we're going to do that with some handmade fiberglass flares from Japan. They're moulded to fit our S500 Hijet and feature a two-piece design for the front so you can still open the door. They've arrived gel-coated already, but we're going to do a little more sanding and give them a coat of satin black paint before we work out how to install them on the car.
Does the flare go to the tip so that when that goes, the flare goes with it, or does that?
I think, based on what I'm seeing here, I'm pretty sure that on the non-tipper models, this is a slightly different shape, and so that just basically clips over.
Yeah, okay.
But it's all, because it's also not lifted,
yeah,
and it doesn't have the tipper mechanism, so it just sort of sits on there. Getting these parts is a bit tricky too, because there's no market in English-speaking countries for it. Good luck finding them. There's one or two different brands out there. These are fiberglass. You can also buy a plastic one, but the plastic ones are an eye-watering $1,000 for a set.
Wow,
of
that's
these.
crazy.
So this is
and
fiberglass.
These are like $300, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of $100, and so I opted for them also because they're likely, being that it's going to be tipping and doing daily duties, that it might get damaged. So I thought we'll do this first and see how we go. But anyway, we may either adjust this once we get the wheel on, but first we're going to put the wheel on so we can see what it looks like.
Yeah. Now, when you're putting wheels on as well, if you are changing specs, then it can change the track and change how the car drives. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because the actual handling of your car will be affected by the wheels. Now, it goes without saying, but some people throw all sorts of crazy stuff on their car and then go all tilty-tanty, and then go, it feels weird. Well, it does, because it's different. So let's put the wheels on. See how much.
See where it sits.
Make
the car fit the wheels. That's been said a few times over the years.
The first step is always to jack up your car, and if you think you might need reminding, buy this shirt from our shop. The factory wheels are 12-inch, which is pretty uncommon in Australia these days, but they are super light, which is exactly what you want for a truck with less than 50 kilowatts of power at the engine, with a heavy tipper tray and lots of four-wheel drive gearboxes, diffs and associated heavy parts. Big, heavy wheels can affect performance and braking due to inertia, angular momentum, and its effects from the extra mass at an increased radius.
All right, here it is, about to transform the little look of this mad truck with the W from Wreck-It, which is wheels. All right.
Are they the right stud pattern?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, they look great. Look at that.
Need new wheel nuts too. Whoa, they do poke, don't they?
Yeah, but
That's
they're
gonna
fat.
work, man.
So this is the time that you also want to kind of go lock to lock and make sure it's not going to scrub on anything. Now, usually we're used to, like in modified cars, of like, go as low as you can. In Japan, there's more of these high than there are low. And if you have a look through these magazines, look at this quickly. Grab one of these magazines and have a look. And you look at how many of them are high versus how many of them are low. And you'll just see that they are ridiculously jacked up, kind of muddy tyres. Like, that's kind of the look that they're going for. So they've all got a bit of height. Some of them, they've kind of made them look a little bit racy, like those ones, you know, but most of the time they're more like this. They're jacked up, and obviously going up is less of an issue with lock to lock than going down.
Does it hit anything on the inside? It shouldn't.
Mate, it's looking good so far.
Does it spin? Will it turn, or is it? Yeah, it should.
Yep, and go the other way.
Here we go.
Man, that's all good. Straighten it up again.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we're
We're gonna measure it?
I reckon we're, yeah, actually, let me grab a tape. I reckon we're about like 80 mil beyond the guard.
Well, I hope our flares are big enough.
And by 80 mil, I mean 110.
I don't normally like red stuff, but with my red spring and my red wheel and my red four-wheel drive sticker and my diff lock and the grey and the white, I reckon it kind of works.
I think it looks good.
Well, let's put them all on and then put it off the jack so we know where it sits, and then we can install our flare.
Yeah.
And I think we should make that flare removable, because if we go through the bush, it's going to cop it. It's ridiculous, but I kind of love it.
The thing is, though, there's just going to be various modes, like Voltron. You know, like when you're cruising down the street and you want to get no one's attention and everyone laugh at you, you do this. And when you want to get no one's attention, but everyone's respect in the bush, you put your muddies back on and people are like, look at this little truck.
No one's attention except some four-wheel drive forums.
Yeah.
I can't believe it made it up a 33-degree incline.
That's true.
My Ranger can do that stock. Should have bought a Ranger. Four-wheel drive, turbo diesel, you know, bush-capable thing for 32 grand or 42, because you can spend like, I think the top of the line Amarok's like $119,000.
You'll be bush capable once you're in this.
Yeah, dude, I'm
That's
already
a big back
bush capable.
tray, isn't it?
I slept in the bush in the back tray.
Yeah, I know. You'll be bush capable.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying there's room.
You're being cheeky.
No, I'm not.
Daihatsu shares its wheel nut specs with its Toyota owners, which are 12 by 1.5, unlike Nissan and Subaru that use 12 by 1.25. I've managed to bowerbird a full set of black wheel nuts from 4 sets of 20 nuts for 5-stud cars that I used on 4 cars that had 4-stud wheels. As part of the refurbishment, Barrel Brothers machined and installed inserts that use your more typical conical wheel nut.
So as you go up, as you body lift your vehicle and raise it and pull the top of the suspension points up, you actually often get some positive camber. So potentially we correct this with some camber pins or mess around with the coilovers, but that's why you'll notice it sort of looks like it's doing this a little bit. The higher you go, the more extreme it is. So at 2 inches, it's okay. So this is a 2-piece flare. I say 2-piece because it's legitimately came in 2 pieces. That's so you can open the door. So they're designed to sit over this part, and these are a fairly small custom-made fiberglass molded one. You can also get ones like big chunky plastic ones that go the whole way up the door. They look pretty cool too. Not so much on a white truck though, because if you color code them white, they sort of start to look a bit funny. So these are just fiberglass and gel coated, and we've just sprayed it. They're not perfect, but they're gonna get beat up anyway. So that bottom bit goes there, top bit goes there, and there's the flare, and we're in, man. We're inside the flare.
That's legal.
It's fantastic. So we're going to use, you could either use tech screws if you're being super dodgy, or you could rivet it, or you could use riv nuts, which is what we're going to use so that you can unbolt these. Just take them off and you see a few riv nuts there, and some water comes in when you go through a water crossing.
First, we're going to test fit the flare up against the body and drill a single locating hole. The flares don't come with any instructions, so I've decided to use M5 bolts and riv nuts or nutserts. These will allow me to remove the flare if I switch back to muddies. I'll need to drill a 5mm hole in the flare and a 7mm hole in the body for the nutsert.
Meanwhile, I'm removing the mudguard off the back of the truck to work out if our aftermarket rear flare is actually going to work, or if I need to relocate the factory one.
So the flares that we ordered for this little truck are not actually made for trucks that have a tip on the back. And so what that means is this here is the little kind of over wheelie thing that goes like this. And if you look at the piece that goes over it, it is clearly designed for a different kind of truck. So it just doesn't line up. So it meant we had to try and think of some other way of kind of covering this. I know in America you see lots of like cars and trucks that have got these like massive wheels poking out the side. In Australia, it's totally illegal, and they're actually really, they got a real nose for it. Like I ordered for one of my cars some flares. They were arriving on a Monday. On a Sunday night, I got pulled over by the police because my wheels were poking out a bit. You don't lose any demerit points, but you pay a fine of like $100 and something bucks. So you got to be covering this. Now, this here doesn't fit on this. It doesn't really look good on that. So basically what I've decided to do over here is get these brackets that are mounting this and just move it out. So instead of it sitting like that, we're just relocating it out here, and that's gonna cover that, keep it legal, and it'll look cool. And also it can be changed really easily. So when we're 4-wheel driving again, that can just go back in just by removing a couple of bolts, which makes it really easy. You're okay. Martin, the truck looks so good, Martin just fell over.
I almost fell over.
Just fell backwards. He's got lightheaded.
While this car will see a lot of time doing tasks around the city, it will also be hitting some gnarly off-road tracks, which is why we need to make sure we can reverse these mods.
So the nice thing about using flares that are custom made, even though the finish is not quite as nice, I can also take these off and strip them back and repaint them, which I may do because there's a couple of cracks I can see, well not cracks, but marks I can see now that the paint's gone on and shrunk back into it. So maybe need some high fill. Anyway, the nice thing about it is they're actually molded properly to the car. So if you're doing an eBay flare, it would look okay, then you don't have a way to do this sort of 2-piece thing. Firstly, easily, and also secondly, just that little kick back into the body means it's not under this constant tension and sort of looking all plasticky and flappy.
Looks great.
So stoked, man. That looks mad. That was easy.
That was a look. That's a skewer morph, but that one's mechanically functional.
No, it's awesome. And the front flares, in terms of fitment, because it was a bit of a guess, really. I mean, the flares add, I don't know, 50 mil of flareness, and I don't know even what offset those wheels are, but I'm really happy with it, man.
A skewomorph is an object that is designed to look functional but actually has no function at all. So there was a hole here and that has that going through it, but it's not actually connected to anything, which is why that is skeuomorphic.
Looks super
I like
neat,
that
though.
word.
It looks neat, like a neat skeuomorph.
Yeah.
I like it. So we're going to do the other side and then let's take it for a drive.
Just like the ratchet wrench, which is one of my favorite tools because it gives you accessibility when you're working in tight spaces, things like doing exhausts and stuff like that. Also, you can use a right angle drill when you need to make holes in places that are kind of harder to get to than a normal drill. So over here, where I had to re-drill these brackets, a normal size drill with a drill bit is just not going to get in there. The angle's not going to be right compared to something like this, where I can actually get in there and get the right angle. So if we look at the actual working length of those, this one here is approximately 28 centimeters versus 18 centimeters. So we've got 10 centimeters worth of leeway where this here would fit that potentially that wouldn't. So it's not a tool that you'd use all the time, but it is something that is handy to have. I believe RYOBI has a new version now, a brushless one. I don't have that one yet. I've just got the OG, but definitely a handy thing to have in your toolbox. Even not for cars, even just for general stuff around the house, a handy thing to have.
And we are done. So now we can inflate the tyres, then double check the wheel nuts with a torque wrench, and then hit the road.
The toast is so good. All right, first drive, I can tell you straight away with the new wheels on that the gearing is different because the wheels are slightly smaller. Not a lot, but a little bit smaller, even though I've gone to a bigger size rim. It does change the gearing, and I noticed that when I had the mud tyres on too, that absolutely changed the gearing. So maybe I'll put a taller tyre on it. It'll change the look a little bit. It might actually change it for the better. Those are just the tyres that came with the wheels. Sorry, 165/50 13, which is quite rubber bandy actually, so maybe a 175/60 or a 185. But otherwise, drives really nice. Feels a bit like it's got a bit more track. It's a hard thing to explain exactly, but it's definitely changed the suspension geometry. But overall, really happy. Let's go. So cool. In fifth gear, sits comfortably in fifth gear at 70 k's an hour. So that's fine for around town, probably not much chop on the highway, but these things are meant to rev. I mean, I think it looks a bit ridiculous, but ridiculous can also be awesome in its own way. It's all about fun. This car makes people smile. Truck, it's definitely a truck. It's not a car, it's a truck.
It really doesn't matter if you call it a car, a truck, commercial vehicle, or even a farm utility. To me, it's the combination of these things that make it special, as well as, of course, its oddball nuggety looks. But my absolute favourite thing about it is the smiles you get from young and old as you make your way across town to the hardware shop or the landscaping supplies or even the dump to tip off some Honda parts. It's a little truck that can brighten up the day just that little bit.
it's supposed to look a bit blocky and a bit like a toy truck, because it kind of is a toy truck that's actually very useful, which is what I love about it. And the soundtrack to this thing now just tops it off for me.
And you know what, Martin? That is the key word, fun.
Yeah.
It's like we don't need to be taking everything so seriously and battling with everyone else on YouTube about who has more horsepowers in their ding doodle. Like it actually, like
we know the answer
no
to
one
that.
really cares that much. I mean, people kind of pretend they care to try and sell you more stuff, but actually experience, fun, hanging out with mates, simple DIY, sometimes some complex DIY, but I think that's really cool. So thank you very much for watching. Now, you may have noticed that Martin was drinking his ding dangle juice from a excellent ding dangling cup.
So good.
And that is, we have these new Mighty Car Mods travel mug. These are double wall insulated, vacuum sealed stainless steel.
You can use it for your cold drink like I like to, or if you're a hot drink type person, which I'm not, you can use it for that
and
too.
they look like this, and
awesome.
that opens.
Fits in a cup holder.
Fits
Perfectly designed
in
to fit a cup
holder. And we ship them anywhere in the world. So if you want to support the show,
click the thing.
Grab one of them and we'll send it to you. Martin, is that all?
Well, soon it's all for this episode. We've got one more little round of modifications we're going to do to this truck. Something we've never done before on the show ever. A mod, a very common mod, a very potentially it's a mod that saves your engine.
Really, Martin?
Yeah.
Are we doing an electric conversion?
No, but we will do some of them.
Good.
Pretty keen.
Excellent.
Yeah, but no, this is a mod that can increase the longevity of your engine in your vehicle.
Well done, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I made homemade beetroot hummus.
Oh, really?
And you know what? For about 500 or 600 grams of chickpeas, you only need half a beetroot to make it super purple.
You know what?
It's a very purple fruit.
You can't beat root.